I've talked about my disdain for pork loin in the past. I just find it to be kind of low on flavor, a little tough, and real easy to dry out because it's so lean. But Daddy got some chanterelles, so on this episode of From What I Gather, it's all about the sauce. I'm going to cut this pork loin into some thick chops and then smother it in a really delicious and creamy chanterelle sauce that everyone is going to love. So let's get started. So I'm going to cut my pork loin into nice 1.5 inch thick chops, real hefty ones. That's going to make it so they're a little more forgiving on the cook, a little tougher to dry out. Just like so. Now I'm going to sprinkle these with some salt. They're thick, so I can be pretty generous. Hit both sides. Now I'm just going to set these aside while I prepare the rest of the ingredients and give that salt a little time to work in there. I'm cutting my chanterelles into some pretty thick pieces. That's going to be okay because when they cook, a lot of water is going to come out of them and those pieces are going to shrink up. That's why it's alright to leave some of these little guys whole. You can go as skimpy or as heavy as you like with your mushrooms on this dish. I love chanterelles, so I'm going to go with a ton of them because to me, they are the main ingredient of the dish because they are definitely going to overshadow that pork loin. In addition to my thick cut pork chops, I've got a couple of tablespoons of finely diced or minced onion or shallot, a few cloves of garlic. I've got about 5 cups of these cut up chanterelles. I've got some heavy cream, about a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, and some fresh rosemary is optional, and a dry white wine. And today I'm using a Pinot Grigio. I'll start by heating up about 1/4 cup of cooking oil in the pan. I'm using blended olive oil today. It's got a higher smoke point than the extra virgin, so it'll work good for this recipe. And I'm going to go ahead and pat a little of the extra moisture off of the chops. Hit them with the pepper. Do the same on the other side. Now my oil just now started to smoke a tiny bit, so I'm going to put those chops in there. I'm not going to cook these real hot because they're thick and I don't want the outside to get overdone before the inside heats up. So it's going to be about medium heat. I'm only going to cook these chops for 2 minutes on that side. And I'll turn them. And do 2 minutes on this side. And then turn them again and keep turning them every 2 minutes to build up a nice crust on the outside and get even heating throughout the chop. Now I'm shooting for about 125 to 130 in the middle here. And I'm doing, so maybe one more flip and we should be there. Alright. I'm just going to loosely throw a piece of foil over the top of those. And now get rid of all of the oil in the pan. And go right to work on the sauce. Now we're going to bring the heat up very high for this beginning portion. Get our chanterelles in there. And we're going to go very high because I want to cook off all of the water, all the moisture in here. I want to cook off all of that water and then replace it with flavor. It's just been a couple of minutes and you can see all that steam, all that moisture just pouring out of here. There's so much water coming out, that's why you can cook it very hot and not worry about burning anything because the water is insulating these mushrooms. Make sure and hit those guys with a pinch of salt. You see now they're really starting to dry out, so I'll bring the temp down a little. Bring it down to about medium. Now my mushrooms are looking nice and dark. I've got a good portion of the water cooked out. You can see the pan starts to dry out and get a little crusty. So now it's time to finish the sauce off. I'm going to go ahead and throw in a pat of butter. I'm going to drop this heat down around medium. I'm going to throw my onions right onto that butter and give those a little saute going on. Now I'm just getting those onions softened up. Mix them all throughout now. Just continue to saute that over medium heat till those onions get real nice and soft. And after a few minutes of sauteing those onions and mushrooms, I'll go ahead and throw in 3 cloves of minced garlic. And that aroma just jumps in your face immediately. Oh, that is so good. I'm only going to give that garlic around a minute just to start to cook. I don't want to overcook it and make it bitter. So once you really start to smell the garlic, it's probably ready to go. And so you want to cool down the pan and stop that garlic from overcooking. So that's when you get it with your wine or stock if you like to use that. I'm going to use a whole cup in here because I got so many mushrooms, and I'm going to crank the heat back up to medium high and flash off the alcohol and reduce the wine down by about half. Now my wine's reduced down by about half, so I'm going to add that cream. I'm going with 3/4 cup of heavy cream. I'll just get that to start boiling and bring this heat down. I still got it cranked real high. I'm going to come in with my tablespoon of Dijon. Yeah. Get that thoroughly stirred in, and that's a good time to give that a taste. Definitely needs some black pepper. And it needs a few minutes just to kind of let the flavors mingle about. I don't want this fresh rosemary to overwhelm the chanterelle flavor, so I can either just add a tiny bit, or I can just put this sprig in there and kind of swirl it around, but just let it stay in there for a minute or two. Now we'll just reduce that down a little bit, let it thicken up. Now I've got it reduced down to where it looks pretty good to me. And now it's time to get in there and check for seasoning. I could definitely use another little pinch of salt, a little more black pepper. And now to finish it off, I'm just going to turn the heat off, chuck in a nice cool pat of butter, and a big pinch of fresh chives, and I'm just going to continue swirling this until that butter melts away. And those chives are optional. I just like to add a little pop of freshness at the end. Parsley works well here too. And that should do it. Oh yeah, it's a good looking sauce. Ooh, tastes good too. Now let's see how we did. Yeah, the pork chop looks good. Still got a little bit of pink in the middle, which is how you want your pork loin, so you don't dry it out. Let's get some of those mushrooms on there, a little bit of that sauce. Now that really is the way to liven up a pork loin. The sauce is so loaded with chanterelle flavor, which I love, and that creaminess just kind of coats everything real nice. It's fantastic. Now, these early fall chanterelles are fantastic, and I want to give a special shout out to Rose for dropping them off on me today. I haven't got a chance to go out and get my own yet, but this really gets me excited for what's to come. And if you have chanterelles where you live, I hope you can get out and get some, and if you do, I hope you try this dish, and I hope you love it, and if you do, please like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.